So Amrita Sen is an Assistant Vice President of Commodities Research at Barclays Capital. She joins me live now from Dubai. Amrita, good to talk to you. Thanks for speaking to us. So clearly a great deal of concern surrounding the situation in Libya. How much geopolitical risk do you see coming right now from Saudi Arabia, the world's largest exporter?
I think there is a significant risk for sure, and I think generally it's just about the unrest in the whole region. We would also highlight countries like Iraq, very big oil producer, countries obviously Oman, which has been fairly quiet, and it's more like a sleeping country in this region. Even that's seeing unrest. So I think overall everybody is very, very concerned that the contagion just keeps spreading, and of course ultimately affects Saudi Arabia.
What about Iran, OPEC's second largest producer? We're getting reports of opposition leaders being arrested, their demonstrations being planned. What should happen if the unrest takes hold in that country?
I think, again, very important country in terms of oil production, and we are already seeing a lot of problems in Iran. Already they are struggling with sanctions. Oil production in terms of decline rates are very high, and genuinely speaking, it is something that the market hasn't focused on, to be honest, a lot. It's been focusing on Algeria a lot, but countries like Iran and Iraq are a bigger threat. And if you see more and more lost production, like Libya, spare capacity, the little bit that's left, it's going to come down very quickly, and that just means even more volatility and potentially price spikes.
You mentioned Algeria there. Do you see significant disruption coming to their supplies as well?
I think Algeria is slightly different because the bulk of their infrastructure is in the south of the country, desert terrain, and very, very well protected by the government. So even if general unrest were to spread to Algeria, we definitely don't think that oil infrastructure or gas infrastructure or exports will be affected that badly.
I mean, you've talked about a range of countries just in the last few short minutes: Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Algeria, Libya, the list goes on. At what point or at what price do you see political instability in the region morphing into an oil crisis?
I think obviously at this point in time, the first thing I'd say is that watch the volatility, because we are seeing very high, daily ranges being traded. I think the next big thing is that if we actually see underlying disruption. So far, that's only come from Libya, and concerns are about every other country. But if you then start to see underlying production lost in any of these countries that we talked about, that really does mean that there is very little spare in the system. And then, yes, it becomes a very big problem for the oil market.
So the point is, you've got Saudi Arabia saying they're willing to increase capacity. Some people are saying, okay, so because of that, we're going to see oil now dip below $100 a barrel. You're saying that if we see supplies affected, or maybe the perception that supplies will be affected from Saudi Arabia, Iran, Algeria, Libya, Iraq, there simply isn't enough spare capacity in the system to make up for all this.
I think as long as Saudi isn't affected, they will keep to try and calm the markets down. And they do have still, even with the increase in production because of Libya, they'll probably still have about 3 million barrels per day. So we've got that spare. I think there are two different issues. One is that if we see lost production from any of the other countries, excluding Saudi Arabia, that spare capacity gets eaten into very quickly because demand is already very strong. The second issue is Saudi Arabia in itself. And if that happens, then yes, that's a very, very big problem.
Watching Saudi Arabia very closely from Dubai, Amrita Sen, commodity analyst at Barclays Capital.